we're going to go ahead and start with a little bit of the phthalo blue, or whatever kind of blue you have. And we're going to mix it. I'm going to dip my brush in water. I'm using, this is like a 1-inch brush. You don't need it to be much bigger because your canvas is 9 by 12. So we're going to take a little bit of the white, actually a good bit of the white, a little bit of the blue, and we're going to mix it together after we dipped our brush in the water a little bit. We're going to start up here at this corner, and we're just going to start brushing a little bit. See, that makes it a very light blue. It's not a real dark blue. And we're just going to brush back and forth like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to graduate from a lighter to a darker as we go down the canvas. So just as I go, I'm grabbing a little bit more blue, and I think that's just a little too much for me, so I'm going to lighten it up. You can always lighten it up while it's still wet just by adding some white onto your brush. There, that's better. Now as we get down around here, I'm going to add a little bit more blue because I want it to start getting darker. Always add a tiny bit of water to your brush, not a lot, doesn't take a lot. I'm just going to go right over that. See how that's starting to get a little bit darker going down? I'm going to add a little more blue as I go down. And as long as it's wet, it can blend really good. And if it starts looking like it's a little too dry, just add a little bit of water as you go. Going down even farther, and I've added a little more blue. See how that's kind of getting darker as we go down? Gonna add even more blue. You can use any color blue you want that you have. I want this to be a painting you can do with supplies you've got around the house, because, you know, as we all know, we can't get out and buy new paints right now. So we kind of have to use what we have. I am using acrylics in a tube, artist acrylics in a tube, but if you have the craft paints, acrylic craft paints in the bottles, that's perfectly fine. You can use that. This is an abstract painting, so I'm not going for a lot of texture here. Now, as I'm getting to the bottom, it's a lot darker in this picture than what I've got here. So I'm just going to add more blue as I'm heading to the bottom. I kind of like that, but I can even go a little bit darker, especially right at the bottom. I'm almost using just the phthalo blue, with no white mixed in, clear at the bottom. And if I want to blend a little more, this is an abstract painting, like I said, so I actually don't want it completely blended. I want to be able to see some variations in the lights and the darks, and that's kind of what I have here, and I like that. So now we have to let this dry. After we're all done, I'm going to rinse out my brush. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to come back. So we can move on. So what I've done now is I have switched to an angled brush right here. Just a little angled brush. This has a little bit stiffer bristles on it so that the paint doesn't get down into the bristles. It kind of stays on the end, and that's what I want. You want a little bit stiffer. This one is 1/2 inch, 13 millimeter. It doesn't say what it is, but it's just a little angled brush. If you want to use a straight brush, just a regular square brush, you're certainly welcome to do that. This one is a straight one. It's a little bit soft or bristled though. You want something a little stronger. You can always use a filbert brush. This is a filbert brush. This is one of my very favorite brushes right here. It looks like the end of your finger. It's curved. It's a flat brush, but it's curved. I use this brush for a lot of things, but right now I'm going to use the angled brush. Now, this is an abstract painting, or you can call it whimsical if you kind of cringe at the thought of an abstract. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and make some of these little leaves here on the bottom. And I'm going to use my phthalo green. And I'm going to put some black on my palette just because that's what we're going to use to darken up. I wanted you to have a very, very simple palette this time because you might not have all these supplies. Your supplies might be limited at your home. So I'm going to take a little bit, dampen my brush a little bit. I'm going to take some phthalo green. And right here, we're going to start with this leaf right here. And I'm going to say this leaf kind of lives right here. And we're just going to make two little curved lines. And we're going to fill these in. Your paints, the paints that I'm using today are student grade paints, so they don't have a whole lot of pigment in them, and I'm going to end up having to go over this a couple of times to get it to be as dark as I want it to, because you can still kind of see a little bit of the blue showing through. I'm going to mix a tiny bit of black with this, with the green, and I'm going to just kind of go over a little bit. Now again, this is an abstract painting. An abstract painting is something that doesn't look like a photo. We're not trying to get it to look like a photo. We just want to have some fun with it. See how that black darkened that leaf up? I'm still probably going to have to go over it again because I can still kind of see a little bit of the blue in there, and I don't want that. So I'm going to take the same mixture, some phthalo green with some black, and I'm going to make a few leaves right in here. And I'm going to get it all around in here because it's kind of at an angle here in the corner. And I'm going to make my color. And then I can go back in and define some of the leaves. I've got a couple of leaves right here. I'm going to put down. I'm just making curved lines, just sweeping in curved lines. I'm not trying to define the leaves. They don't have to be perfect. It's an abstract. You're supposed to have fun with this. I'm going to say a leaf will go out here. And the rest of this, I'm just going to kind of fill in just to make it dark. Okay. I'm going to let that set for just a minute. I think I'm going to try and maybe point this one just a little bit more, make it a little more pointy. Just a tiny bit. So it makes this angled brush so nice. Get a nice sharp edge with this angled brush. You can use a bigger canvas with this if you want to, but I've always said paintings are meant to be viewed far away, not right up on top of them. And since this is an abstract, you're going to tell these are tulips, but it will look a lot more detailed if you hang it up on the wall and stand back from it. which is also why we're using a smaller canvas. So you don't have to get so far back to make it look really good. I don't know about you, but I don't have a 50-foot living room. So I need a little bit smaller canvas. I'm going to go ahead and use the blow dryer just to kind of get this dry because I want to put a few details in here. It needs to be a little drier. If you don't let your paint dry, acrylic paints especially, before you put another layer on, it's going to lift off the color that you've got on there, and we don't want that. So it's going to be loud. I'm going to use blow dryer for just a second. I'm going to get a cup of coffee while this is going on. I think that'll work. You don't want to overwork this. And I'm kind of speaking to some of my ladies out there who love to overwork the canvas. You do not want to overwork this because if you do, it's just going to frustrate you. As I said, this is not supposed to be a real painting. This is an abstract. So I'm going to take a little bit of my white. Okay, so a little bit of my white. And I've still got the green on my brush. I haven't taken the green off my brush. So I'm getting a little bit of white. And I'm going to go right in here, where it's got some of these little lines right here. I'm just going to paint a few little lines, just for some. And there's a couple here, some here. We've got some going here. This is actually a painting done by the art Sherpa. I watched what she did the other day, and she just kind of really had fun with this. It wasn't, I'm going to just blend this a little bit. Now to blend it, I'm just kind of turning my brush a little bit to the side. I'm not getting any more water on it, so it's kind of getting dry, which is good. This is what I want. I think that's all I'm going to do there. Now we're going to go ahead and decide where we're going our tulips. And I am going to rinse my brush out for this. And we're going to take some of our phthalo green and I'm going to take my brush and use it this way. So here's the way it's angled. Let's take it like this. I'm going to make one probably right up in here. So you want to start at the bottom where your leaf is, and you just want to swipe it right up like that. That's all it is. Then we kind of got one going here. So we'll get a little more paint on our brush. This is a good thing about having the stiff brush because it doesn't relax, it doesn't bend when you're trying to make your stalks. And that's a good thing because there's nothing more frustrating than having your stalks going all over the place because your brush is bending. And we're going to make one coming right up here, I think. Now, if you want that to be a little darker, you can mix a little bit of black with your green. I didn't. But if you want to, and actually, it kind of gives it some shading, which is pretty, because I'm taking the black and just kind of running it up there after the green. So I kind of like that. Another good thing about a stiff angled brush, you can get almost a really fine line out of it. Okay, then we have a small one running right here. We're gonna just take this and make a small one. Got one coming out around this way. So let's go ahead and get a little more paint on our brush. Mix a little bit of green with a little bit of black. And we're gonna kind of come up this way with this one. Just kind of angle it up. Like that. It's okay if that's on the front. If you want to put some more green in there later after this is dry and camouflage that stalk, but I think I like that on the outside. We've got one coming up right here, a small one, very small one, like that. And I'm gonna let it be right in front of that leaf. And we've got a teeny tiny one over here, if you wanna put that one in, like that. Those are our stalks. Now we're gonna rinse out our brush again. We're gonna use the same brush for our flowers. And we have purple tulips and red tulips and sort of a little bit pinkish tulip. So I'm going to put out a violet, and I'm gonna put out dioxazine purple with my phthalo blue, and I have some quinacridone magenta for the red. And we're going to use a good bit of white with this too. We're going to lighten up these purples in this red. Okay. So we're going to start out with this purple one here, this pretty purple one. And we're going to take some dioxazine purple. It's hard to pronounce sometimes. We're going to take that, we're going to mix a little bit of white with it. We're going to get it on our brush. Okay, see that purple right there? That is really pretty. And I've just mixed the purple with a little bit of white. And we're going to take our flower, we're going to start right here. And we're going to go up, curve up one side, curve up another side, and then we're just going to kind of squiggle like that. And there's our first tulip. Now I'm going to take a little bit of the purple without any white, because we want to have a little bit of shadows in here, a little bit of variation. So I'm going to take this up one side with the darker, take it up the other side, put a little bit of darker right up on the top. Now you notice there's some red in here and some white. Let's make him a little bit fatter. Just make him a little fatter. There we go. Now I'm just going to scrape off my brush on the plate. I'm not going to rinse it out. I'm going to take a little bit of the magenta A little bit of white, a little bit of magenta. And I'm going to do some pink, just put some swipes of pink in here. That's pretty. That's pretty. Now I'm going to give myself a little more white. I'm going to put a little bit of highlights in here. Like that. I think it's kind of pretty. Now I'm going to go ahead and rinse out my brush. You'll see right here, I had some paint on my finger and it got on the canvas. That's okay. I can easily mix a little bit of blue and go over that when it's all dry. Or I might just leave it. That's kind of whimsical looking. So we're going to go ahead and take some magenta, mix it with a little bit of white. And we've rinsed out our brush, so we've already got a little bit of water on our brush. It's going to make a lighter pink right there. I have a lighter pink. Then we're going to do this little flower right here. We're going to swipe up and around, and up and around. And then we're going to do some more squiggles here. Now when that dries, I am going to have to do another coat of that, because with this student pigment, these are called Liquitex Basics. Doesn't have a lot of pigment in it. Now, if I want it to look more red, which I might mix a little bit of black with this to give me more red look. Yep, it's not giving me the red I want. I think what I might do is, if you have just red, I have primary red. Let's take some primary red and see what happens. This is the fun part. We get to experiment a little bit. So I'm not going to clean my brush out. I'm just going to leave it. And get a tiny bit of water on it. Actually, I am going to rinse it out because I had black on there. I am going to rinse that out. All right, now I'm going to take the red. Swipe up with some red. Ooh, that's pretty. That's mixing with that pink is really pretty. Yeah, I like that. Might even I'm going to darken this too, as soon as that dries a little bit. This is all dry, obviously, now. I'm going to go ahead and do some red and darken it with just a little bit of black. If you have a dark red in your collection of paints, you don't have to add any black, but I want it just a little bit darker than the red that I have. So I'm going to add a little bit of little bit of black in here just to darken this red up. And I might snatch a little bit of magenta as well. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm going to put some shading right in here. Oh, look at that. That's nice. I like that. That's great. I really like that. Yes. Okay, now we have a lighter red here, a lighter magenta. So I'll take a little bit of white with the magenta, mix it. I haven't rinsed out my brush. And we're gonna go up through here. And see, I am actually giving this its second coat as I'm doing this. I'm gonna take some white, some more white down in here. That kind of gives you the illusion also that you've got the different petals of the flower, which is good. That's pretty. That is pretty. Let's do a little tiny bit more white. Just kind of kissing the edges here a little bit. That's pretty. Okay, now we're gonna do another purplish one down here. Just like this one, we're gonna go with our, I don't think I'm gonna wash my brush out. I'm gonna leave that pink on there that I have. I'm gonna get a little bit of water though. Get a little bit of pink, and get a little bit of white mix in with that purple. Then I'm gonna create one right here. Again, just curving up our brush as we go. Just like that. Now it's got a little more red in it, so we can go back to our magenta. Well, this is all kind of still wet a little bit. And we can put some magenta in there. Now this is really dark right around the edges. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get just a little bead of paint. See that? Can you see that little bead of paint right there on the edge of the brush? In the purple. And I'm just gonna kind of line right down in like that. I'm going to go ahead and let some of that dry. I'm going to wash my brush out now. I'm going to put a lighter one right here. And that's more of a lighter pink. So I'm going to take my red and I am going to mix some white with that. I'm going to take the magenta. I'm going to mix. Give me like a medium pink to start out with. Let me take a little bit of blue in there too. I'm going to take yeah. Make him a little fatter if we want to. Yeah. That's pretty. We're going to do the same thing down here because that's about the same color. So we're going to do another one. Another smallish one right here. And I'm just curving as I go. Like that. Okay, so we'll let those dry a little bit. We've got another one down here that's more reddish. So let's go back to our red. A little bit of water. Not much water, doesn't take much. And we're going to make I'm going to do this one right here. Like that. That's pretty. All right, now I'm going to add some highlights in here. I think while I'm waiting for this to dry, before I add some more highlights, I want to darken this up a little bit down here. So I'm going to go back to my green, and I'm going to grab some of my green. I'm going to grab a little bit of black too, to really darken this up. And I'm just going to go down here. And I'm just going to brush back and forth. Just trying to get, I've got a good bit of black on my brush right now. To pull in some black down here. Rinse it out again. Now I'm going to grab some white this time. I really like green again, and I'm going to go back through. Get some more definition here. Kind of fun. That's kind of fun looking. Okay, rinse my brush out again. I'm going to shoot this a little bit more with the blow dryer. Be a little bit loud here. This kind of makes me think your stem may be fine. This kind of makes me think that this flower is right in that leaf, and I don't like that. So I'm going to take a little bit of black with my green. I'm just going to go over that stem. I can actually tell if that's a stem. That's better. And maybe this one too. There'd be a definite stem there. Okay, this one's done and this one's done. I'm not gonna touch those anymore. I'm gonna do some more red on these. Let's see. Find my red here. And I really like that pink, so I'm going to take just a little tiny bit of white, but mostly red. And I'm going to go up the sides of this one. That's pretty red. Like this one, give it some darker, I think. Some darker red. It's a nice thing about these angled brushes. When you're pulling it up, you can lift up on the brush, and then all that's left is the tip. And that gives you a nice point when you're doing something like this. Okay, this still needs to be, we still need some more colors on that one. Let's see. Let's go with just red. And I've still got I haven't rinsed my brush out. It's the same paint that's on there. Could take some magenta. I'm just going to put some, just thinking about what a tulip looks like, and that's the way I'm taking my brush. I'll put some white on here. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing yet. Figure that out. Well, actually, that's kind of pretty. I'm going to leave that. This one has more white on it, so probably I'm going to start out with the darker, I may end up doing more white. The wind has picked up out here. Okay, this one has some really, really, really dark in it. Let's take the magenta and add just a tiny bit of, let's go with purple. Add some purple to the magenta. The magenta is just a really dark red. If you have red and you want to make it a lot darker, just add some black if you don't have magenta. That's nice. This is nice. This is a good dark. That's pretty. Okay, so again, rinse out my brush. This is really nice because when I go to my meeting today, I can actually take this and show them what I've done. So we've got some highlights. Still got a few highlights in this one. So I've taken white, mixed just a little bit of magenta because I want it really light. And I'm gonna go down this. I'm gonna do a little bit here. Go back to the magenta. Kind of like that better for this one anyway. I don't like that one. Not now. That's another good thing with acrylics. You can, once it dries a little bit, I can go back over this and make that darker. This, we've got some really, really dark. We've still got really dark. So I'm going to, I think maybe I'll take some blue. Get some blue on my brush. I'm just going to line the outside a little bit. Got some white on my brush from it needs to be dark. Dark, 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 dark. Dark, dark, dark. I have turned my brush over and I'm just using the point right now. I don't know. What do you think? Don't know if I like that or not. Let's rinse out. Need some more red. A little more red in there. So I'm going to go with regular red. Just red. Put some regular red in there. Now you'll notice if you try to do this, it's really kind of good what I'm showing you. You can't really see the red that I'm putting on here because this is not dried yet. And if you remember what I told you, if you don't let the paint dry underneath before you put something else on, it pulls it up off of there. So the red is not showing at all. This is dry down here. I'm going to leave that alone for a minute. No, that's not quite dry. I think I'm going to just let it be for a minute. Try not to overthink myself. Just putting in some. This isn't real dry, but it's almost. So it's letting me blend it a little bit. Which is, I think, is turning out better. Yeah, that's blending in. This is blending in nicely. That's a little better. This one, like that. That's better. That's better. I think I like those. Just need to work on this one a little better, a little more. This right there. Still need that one to be a little more red. Let's hit it with some air. Okay, let's see what we've got here. And let's see. Let's take some magenta and mix it with some white. It's a little better. That's getting better. White. Just using the little end of the brush. Still not giving me the red I want. Still not quite the red I want. That's the way flowers are. They give you what they want to give you and not necessarily what you want, which is fine. I think I'm going to go with that. Let's give this little guy a little more definition over here. What we'll do is I'll dry off this brush a little bit and just blend this a tiny bit. Dry brushes are good. You just wipe it off and then just kind of go over a little bit. There we go, just like that. All right, I'm gonna behave. That's kind of pretty. I think I like it. Now this painting has some little circles and sunbursts and things like that on it, but I'm not gonna do that because I wanted to have you do it with items you could find around the house. I personally don't have, she used like a little spouncer like you would use in stenciling walls and things, little round spouncer. I don't have one of those at home, and you may not have one of those at home. If you do, please feel free to use a little bit of white paint and dab it in lightly and then just put it on your painting and twist it and lift up. Same with the blue. You just take a little bit of blue, mix with a little tiny bit of white, and spounce it in very lightly and put it on there, twist and up. And she did the same things with the sunburst. She mixed a little bit of yellow with the white, did that, and then she took her brush, a liner brush, which is very tiny, tiny little liner brush, and made the little star shapes on top of that. I didn't particularly care for it, so I didn't do mine that way. I like this. And as I said, it is an abstract. It's not going to look exactly like tulips, but you can tell those are tulips. And it gives you a nice spring feeling in a time when we can't leave the house and we can't get out. So that's a good thing. Well, thank you for joining me. I hope you come back. I'm going to be doing another one of these in a few weeks. Come back and join me again, and we'll try something else.